Hey everybody, I am thick in the canning season right now, so as I show you around the kitchen when I'm doing this, you're going to see a big mess, so just ignore it. That is just the reality of canning season when you are full of produce. So today, I got a deal, $5 for like a peck of peppers. They're bell peppers and not all of them are in great shape, but they're decent. Most of them. There are some that are going to have spots that we need to cut out. But with all of these delicious peppers, plus some that I have in my garden, I'm going to be canning fajita starter mix. So it's going to have peppers and onions and a little bit of seasoning, but not too much because it's really probably going to get kind of drowned in the water. There's Rosie in the background. And we are going to be adding a little bit of citric acid to it because it's going to keep everything a little bit more crisp because you don't have to process it quite as long. You can always rinse it off afterward. Besides, with a lot of fajitas, they add lime and stuff like that anyway, so it's really not going to make a huge impact in the flavor, but it'll help to keep these things crisp. So come along as I can up some fajita starters. Tell you what, I panned that image out and this bump really is showing. I'm getting to be almost 16 weeks by tomorrow. You want more, Melon? Okay, hold on. So, yes, there's a baby in there. I'm not just overeating. All right. So, basically we're going to be taking our peppers first, and what I like to do is cut all the way around the top. So that it's easier for me to get the seeds out without it getting all over the inside of the pepper strips that I'm going to be cutting. So, get that nice and close. First to cut all the way around, and then cut down one side and back up the other, so that when I open it, the seeds all kind of stay in one spot. It's okay. And it's easier to take all those veins out. So then I'm just going to kind of slice these up into like a little thicker than a julienne. I like mine about a 1/4 inch wide. I'm going to cut all my peppers like that. And I'm just going to toss them in a bowl so that I can get a nice good mix of yellow and red peppers, maybe even a couple of green slices in there. Got a bowl over here. And let's fill it up with some peppers. Gotten all the peppers cut up into strips. I am actually going to give this a rinse again because, like I showed you, some of the peppers were not in the greatest condition. I got all the bad parts off, but I just want to rinse them off again. But before I rinse them and accidentally add weight with the water, I'm going to measure. My scale's already calibrated for my bowl here. And I've got just shy of 5 pounds of peppers. So I want to get about 5 pounds of onions. You can't really do one pepper for one onion because they're very different weights, and you end up with very onion heavy, which, I mean, if you want to, or if you want very pepper heavy, that's fine. But I want to have a nice even amount, so I'm going to get about 5 pounds of onions and slice them up just like I did the peppers and mix them in. So, but first, I'm going to rinse these peppers off. So it took me about 11 onions, so about half a pound per onion to get up to my 5 pounds. And I have absolutely no tips for how to reduce the tears when you are cutting up onions. One thing I guess I do is that I use a mandolin instead of a knife, just because it goes faster, and then I don't have to cry as much. But just use this as a cathartic release and just cry those pent-up tears that you can't cry otherwise, and just blame it on the onions when somebody comes around. So you want the onions, I cut mine in half here, and now I'm going to use my mandolin. Yes, I know how to use a mandolin. Yes, I'm going to be careful of my fingers here. When I get to this thickness, I'm just going to toss them in there. I'm not going to try and get them another thickness. Now, there's a couple options once you get your onions and your peppers done, sliced up. You can put them in a sheet pan in the oven and turn on the broiler and kind of broil them. You can cook them down, or you can pack them fresh. Now, packing fresh is faster, but you will get a lot more shrinkage. If you do them in the oven, gives it a really nice flavor, but you might kind of smoke yourself out of the house with that. If you got a grill, do it on the grill. But if you're going to just do it raw pack, that's fine. You can always put a little char on them once you open up the jar and dump the liquid out and get your onions and peppers cooked up for your midwinter fajitas. Now, I have a lot of viewers who have mobility issues, and admittedly, slicing up 10 pounds of anything is going to be really difficult for them. But there are a lot of different mobility aids that you can look at, manual choppers or even a food processor. You do not have to make these into strips, but food processors do have settings that has the blade up higher so that you can just push those down through and quickly slice all of these things up. If you have a manual chopper that dices, you can absolutely do this diced. You do not have to do like shoestring style strips of onion and pepper. So please do what your body and your abilities tell you that you can do. It's totally fine. Another option that's not mobility related but spice related, if you are a person who loves spice, you can absolutely add hot peppers to this. It does not change the acidity because all peppers are the same acidity. The only thing that will change the acidity, onions, oh my goodness, is how much citric acid, vinegar, lemon, lime, etc. that you add. All right, cut. So I was talking to you guys about how we were going to be adding citric acid in order to acidify this so that we can water bath can it so that things are not quite as mushy. Because I am going to be raw packing mine, and that's just how I'm going to be doing it. So foods that are acidic enough can be water bathed safely, even by the ABC agency's rules, right? So things like tomatoes and cranberry juice and things like that are acidic. Things like beef and potatoes are not. Onions and peppers are not actually acidic, and so the old pressure canning methods say 35 minutes or more for peppers, just plain. However, we are kind of going in a middle ground. If you pickle peppers with actual, vinegar, like you're thinking like pickled jalapenos, then you only have to water bath them for 10 or 15 minutes. Some people even open kettle them, which I would be perfectly comfortable with myself because of the high acidity. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be bringing the acidity to the right level for us to can. So I got a quart of water here, and I added 1/4 teaspoon of citric acid to it, stirred it up, and I have pH testing paper. And I already tested it ahead of time, but I'm still going to do this live for you just because it's kind of fun. So in a quart of water, and when you pour water into your jars with it already filled with onions and peppers, you're going to have less water anyway to dilute it. So it'll still work. So a quart of water and a quarter teaspoon of citric acid. We'll do a dip. Da, da, da. And I'm not going to actually use this in my canning, but I want to show you that here on this white paper, I'll bring up my little key here. You can see that it is at a 4, which is a safe level for canning. About 4.6 means that you're supposed to pressure can it. Anything 4.5 and lower, you can safely water bath. So we're going to be basically adding 1/4 teaspoon of citric acid per quart jar, salt, pepper, any other spices that you kind of want, and then topping it up to an inch headspace with water. If you want to get creative, you could sub tomato juice for this, but then you either have to use that tomato juice, which would probably be really tasty, or drain it off. And since I'm planning on using this just for fajitas, I'm just doing some water. So I've got 7 quart jars, packed nice and tightly, as tight as I could possibly get them, up to about an inch headspace with my peppers and onions. And into each jar, I'm going to put 1/4 teaspoon of citric acid. I actually had enough that I could have done another jar or maybe even 2, but only 7 jars fit in my canner at one time, and I have to make dinner tonight, so I'm just going to use the extra tonight. So 1/4 teaspoon of citric acid into each jar, and then because I'm probably going to be draining this brine and not just using it in whatever I'm making when I use this, I'm going to go ahead and put a full teaspoon of salt into each jar. Now I am using canning salt, but you can use whatever salt you want. Sometimes iodized salt can change the color, but if you're not worried about that, then don't worry about it. I was going to use some cumin, but it turns out I'm extremely low on cumin, so I'm just going to save the cumin and other spices for later. However, my family loves black pepper and they love spice, so I am going to put a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper in here in each jar. And then I'm going to use some water. You can use cold if you're going to start with a cold canner, hot if you're going to start with a hot canner. Doesn't really matter. As long as the canner and the temperature of the water is pretty much the same, and we're going to fill it up to 1 inch headspace. So how long are we going to be water bath canning these? I'm going to be canning these for 1 hour. Without the added acidity, 2 hours is appropriate for water bath canning. I tend not to water bath my low acid foods unless I have to. I much prefer to add a little acidity. 15 minutes is way too low, and because of its acidity, I feel most comfortable with about an hour. So we're going to water bath can these for an hour and take them out and let them cool, just like you've seen in all my other videos. And there's a Patrick. Say hi, Patrick. So while I am kind of tidying up the kitchen while that is starting to can, I thought maybe you guys would like to know some of the little details that's been going on lately. I've been a little absent from YouTube just because I've been so busy. Getting ready for baby number 7, due in March, which was a little bit of a surprise if people know my history, but we are very blessed. Babies are just absolutely amazing. And I know everyone's going to ask, how is this pregnancy going? So let me tell you, this pregnancy has actually gone miraculously well. You all probably, if you follow my channel, you know that I really truly struggle. But I am 16 weeks now, or will be tomorrow, and I've only gotten sick twice. And I'm still able to do all the things physically that I was able to do before I was pregnant. I went to the dentist. I don't have to get any more teeth removed, so that's exciting. So I've been very, very blessed with this pregnancy. It's not near as hard as any of my 6 prior ones, which is still shocking to this day. And it's healthy. Everything's great. I will be using hospital instead of home birth this time, just because I'm 35, and that makes me advanced maternal age, or geriatric. So that's fine. But, you know, what you gonna do? I'm really rocking this dress, aren't I, guys? On the home front, we're trying a little bit something different with homeschool this year. We are using Catholic Heritage curricula for the most part. And how is that going? Well, let's just say I am an unschooler at heart. And that makes it really difficult to completely switch like that. And we're just going to keep trying it for a little while. And if it's not something that's really floating our boat this year, then we are going to just go back to how things were. But I'm going to give it a really good try and see how it goes. There's some parts of it that we absolutely love. I really enjoy the geography, and I think the kids do too. And I like that they're having us read good books. But it's just so tempting to go back to just a lifestyle of learning instead of being told what to learn and in what order to learn it. I'm currently trying out a recipe for pear jam that was in my grandma's recipe book, and I am also working on some sauerkraut. That looks darker on the video than it is in real life. It's perfectly fine. It's a very happy sauerkraut. And I've got, finally, my garden is finally producing. And I've got just oodles and oodles of beans that I need to figure out something to do with. I've been dehydrating cherry tomatoes for sun-dried tomato. And I have got so many of these peppers that I am super excited about. So these are serrano chilies. And I'm going to be doing a fermented hot sauce with them, which my kids are super stoked about. Cucumbers did terribly. Apples did terribly. But other than that, the garden is finally caught up to where it should have been about a month ago. So here I am next day, and they turned out really, really well. They still look fairly crisp for having a cooked product, and they're all sealed really well. The color looks great, and I am really looking forward to using these. I double checked with a lot of groups that I do rubble canning with, and the consensus is, yes, absolutely safe. It's kind of like doing a light pickle. So the kids are all doing their activities, and they're getting very passionate about it. So excuse the background noise. But it turned out really well. I'm looking forward to using it for fajitas this winter time. I want it to at least sit on the shelf for a couple weeks just so that I can see how well it ages, so to speak, if it gets too tangy. So if you're up for an experiment, it's definitely worth it. There are other things that you can do to use the same kind of method where you're adding a little bit of acid so that you can reduce canning time. Zucchini and yellow squash is one, and you can also do other veggies. But anyway, thanks a lot for coming along. I hope it was fun for you. I enjoyed it, and I am really looking forward to this because it really does. It looks great. It looks awesome, doesn't it, guys? All right. Until next time, which I hope is sooner than it has been, God bless, and have a lovely time canning and filling up your pantry for the coming winter. Bye, guys.